Imagine someone who thrived on controlling you suddenly becoming irrelevant. Think about it. All the anxiety, the sleepless nights, the constant wondering, gone. Not because you fought, not because you planned, but because something far more powerful happened. You moved on. And here's the kicker: most people will never notice they've won. You might be walking around, smiling at life, while the person who once dictated your every thought is stuck, watching from the sidelines. If you recognize even one of these signs in yourself, pause for a moment. This isn't just recovery, it's victory. Hit like, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the quietest victories are often the most devastating for them. There's a moment, often so subtle that it almost sneaks up on you, when you realize you no longer feel that tight knot in your chest whenever their name crosses your mind. That's the first sign you've truly defeated a narcissist. Peace. It doesn't arrive like a fireworks show. It's quiet, almost imperceptible at first. No shouting, no confrontations, no dramatic "I've won" moment. Just a calm that slowly settles in, filling the space that fear and tension used to occupy. You no longer feel compelled to replay past interactions in your head, analyzing every word, every gesture, trying to decode hidden meanings or strategize your next move. The obsession that once consumed your thoughts has lost its grip. You're not triggered by their absence or presence because they've lost the power to dictate your emotional state. Your mind, once a battlefield of anxiety and doubt, now functions with clarity. Decisions are made for your benefit, not through the lens of what they might think or how they might react. You start noticing that life itself feels lighter, less heavy, less calculated, less burdened by the need to defend yourself or anticipate attacks. Even small things, a message you don't need to respond to immediately, a social media post you scroll past without reaction, become proof of your newfound immunity. This piece signals a deeper shift. It's the emotional equivalent of breaking out of a cage. You begin to trust yourself, your instincts, and your perceptions again, without the constant second guessing that once left you exhausted and tense. And the more you lean into this state, the more irreversible it becomes. What was once a relentless storm of manipulation, gaslighting, and control is now nothing more than background noise. You're present, you're grounded, and in this calm, this quiet victory, you've already won, long before the narcissist realizes they've lost. It's not dramatic. It doesn't need to be. Peace is proof enough. When you reach the point where your decisions are truly your own, you've stepped into a space the narcissist can no longer touch. This is not just about making choices. It's about the liberation that comes with reclaiming control over your life. For years, your thoughts, your actions, even your smallest choices were filtered through the lens of how they might react, what they would approve of, or how they could manipulate you into doubt and guilt. Every decision carried an invisible weight, an unspoken pressure that you had to navigate to avoid conflict or criticism. But now, that weight is gone. You decide what to eat, where to go, who to trust, and how to spend your time without scanning for approval or fear of disapproval. There's a clarity in this freedom that is profoundly disorienting at first, because for so long, your brain was wired to anticipate and react to their control. You might notice yourself pausing, realizing mid-action that you are choosing not because someone is watching, but because it feels right for you. And this is the silent victory. Every small self-directed choice chips away at the hold they once had. It doesn't require confrontation or dramatic gestures. It happens quietly, in the way you pick up the phone and call someone without waiting for their opinion, the way you set boundaries without fear of reprisal, the way you say no without an internal apology. Over time, these choices accumulate into a life that is undeniably yours. The narcissist who thrived on steering your thoughts and actions now has nothing to manipulate. Your independence becomes the quiet evidence of your triumph. You are no longer living reactively, trying to navigate their mood swings or demands. Instead, you are proactive, intentionally shaping your own life, guided by your own values, needs, and desires. Every decision reinforces the truth. Their power over you has ended. And in this subtle, almost invisible reclaiming of control, you have already won the war they didn't even realize you were fighting. Emotional immunity is one of the clearest and quietest signs that you've defeated a narcissist. For years, they thrived on your reactions. Every insult, every subtle jab, every manipulative story was designed to provoke guilt, shame, anger, or fear. They measured success by how easily they could push your buttons, control your mood, and make you question your own sanity. But emotional immunity changes all of that. It's not a sudden switch. It's a process that happens as you rebuild yourself, reclaim your boundaries, and stop seeking their approval. The first moments of immunity are small. You notice a comment that would have once spiraled you into anxiety barely lands at all. A remark that used to sting now rolls off your back. The manipulative tactics that once dictated your feelings no longer have the power to shake your equilibrium. You realize, almost with disbelief, that your sense of self is no longer hostage to their whims. Your emotional responses are no longer automatic. They're deliberate, chosen by you, not forced by them. This immunity also comes with clarity. You can observe their attempts to provoke or manipulate without feeling the pull to respond defensively or emotionally. You start to recognize the patterns, the predictable triggers, and the manipulative scripts, but you don't react. You simply witness them, detached, almost like an outsider looking in. And in that detachment, there's freedom. Freedom from the constant emotional roller coaster, freedom from walking on eggshells, and freedom from the exhausting work of protecting your own mental stability. Emotional immunity doesn't just shield you, it signals victory. It proves that their strategies no longer define your reality or control your internal world. You are steady, grounded, and self-reliant. They may still try, still test, still provoke, but the truth is clear. Their tools no longer work, and that is the quietest, most profound defeat they could ever experience, one you may not have even realized you had delivered. In the calm, unshakable space of emotional immunity, you are no longer their target. You are their proof of loss. Freedom from obsession is a silent victory you feel long before anyone else notices it. For years, your mind ran like a loop, replaying every conversation, every slight, every inconsistency. You checked messages, social media, and updates, trying to predict their next move, analyzing their behavior for hidden meanings, and imagining worst-case scenarios. Your energy was spent not living your life, but monitoring theirs. You might have thought this was vigilance or awareness, but in truth, it was a kind of captivity, mental chains you didn't even realize were holding you. The moment you experience freedom from obsession, those chains fall away. You wake up one day and notice that you haven't thought about them for hours, maybe even days. You no longer feel the pull to investigate what they're doing or who they're with. You stop seeking closure from interactions that never offered it. Social media scrolls that once triggered anxiety now pass unnoticed, and names that once sparked a storm in your mind now drift through without reaction. This freedom is deceptively simple, but it's profound. It signals that you are no longer living in reaction to their existence. Your mental space, once hijacked by the need to predict and protect yourself from them, is now your own. You make room for creativity, joy, and growth, spaces that were previously inaccessible because your thoughts were monopolized by someone else. And here's the irony: the less you obsess, the stronger your control becomes. Their influence diminishes quietly, invisibly, while you continue building a life that they cannot touch or dictate. There's no dramatic announcement, no confrontation, no evidence for the outside world. But internally, this is one of the most undeniable signs of victory. The obsession that once defined your attention and energy has been replaced with focus on your life, your growth, and your future. And in that replacement lies the truth: you've won. Without fanfare, without confrontation, and without even realizing it, you've stepped out of their shadow and reclaimed the mental freedom that was always your birthright. Self-worth without validation is one of the most liberating signs that you've defeated a narcissist. For years, their presence or absence shaped how you viewed yourself. Compliments felt like lifelines, criticisms like chains. Every action you took, every word you spoke was measured against an invisible standard they set, consciously or unconsciously. Your confidence was conditional, fragile, and tied to their perception. But the moment you stop needing their approval, you cross into a realm they cannot reach. You begin to understand that your value is intrinsic, not granted by anyone else. You no longer seek reassurance, approval, or acknowledgement from someone who thrives on control and manipulation. This doesn't mean arrogance or detachment. It's a quiet, profound shift in perspective. You make decisions, express yourself, and pursue your goals without the lingering question of whether they would approve. You realize that their criticisms, lies, and manipulations no longer define your reality or your self-esteem. You feel whole, capable, and worthy because you recognize your own accomplishments and integrity. Even in moments when they try to insert doubt, their words slide off, powerless to pierce the armor of your self-recognition. You notice it in subtle ways. You speak up without hesitation. You pursue opportunities without hesitation, and you accept compliments without discounting them. There's no need to argue, prove, or defend yourself. This self-reliance doesn't just protect you, it's a form of victory they can never reclaim. They once held the keys to your sense of worth, but now you've taken those keys back. And here's the quiet irony: the more self-assured you become, the smaller their influence grows. They may still try to manipulate, provoke, or control, but you meet it with a grounded awareness of your own value. It is in this unshakable recognition of your self-worth, independent of anyone else's approval, that the finality of your victory becomes clear. You've not only survived, you've redefined yourself on your terms. Without drama, confrontation, or awareness on their part, you've defeated them simply by understanding your own value and refusing to hand it over to anyone else ever again. When life moves forward without their influence, it's a sign that you've defeated a narcissist in the most profound way possible. For years, their presence dictated the pace, the focus, and the energy of your life. Your days were measured by their moods, their expectations, and their manipulations. Decisions were postponed, actions delayed, and dreams muted because their reactions loomed like shadows over every choice. But the moment you step into forward momentum, it's clear that you are no longer living in reaction to them. You start building, creating, and investing in yourself, your goals, and your future without hesitation or fear of their interference. Work, Relationships, passions, and personal growth no longer orbit around their whims. They orbit around you. This is not about rushing or overcompensating. It's about reclaiming the natural flow of life that was disrupted. You take actions that matter to you, even if they would have disapproved or criticized, because their judgment no longer holds weight. You notice opportunities, connections, and experiences that were previously invisible or unattainable because your energy was tied up in monitoring, reacting, or appeasing them. And as life moves forward, you feel the quiet, undeniable thrill of progress, the sense that you are not just surviving, but thriving. This forward motion highlights a cruel reality for the narcissist. While you are actively shaping a meaningful life, they remain stuck, observing from the sidelines, frustrated by their inability to regain control. Every project you start, every goal you achieve, and every new relationship or connection you nurture becomes a testament to your independence and your victory. And the beauty of it is that this is often invisible to them. There's no confrontation, no dramatic declaration, no public spectacle. Life simply continues, richer, fuller, and freer than it ever was under their influence. And in that continuous, unapologetic forward motion, the proof of your triumph is unmistakable. You've moved on, grown, and evolved in ways they can't touch, and that alone is the most profound, silent defeat they will ever experience. Laughing without guilt is one of the clearest, quietest signs that you've defeated a narcissist. For years, humor, joy, and even simple happiness were filtered through their expectations, their judgment, or their attempts to control your emotional world. You might have found yourself hesitating to smile, holding back laughter, or censoring joy because it could provoke jealousy, resentment, or criticism. Moments that should have felt light and freeing were instead tainted by tension, calculation, and an unspoken need to measure everything against their approval. But the moment you realize you can laugh freely, without the shadow of guilt or self-censorship, you know you've crossed a threshold they can never reclaim. It's not about exaggeration or forced positivity, it's about authenticity. You notice it in small ways: a funny memory, a joke among friends, a moment of absurdity in daily life, and you laugh openly, fully, without scanning the room or anticipating a disapproving reaction. That laughter is a quiet rebellion. It signals that their grip on your emotional life has loosened completely. Every chuckle, every smile, every burst of joy is proof that you are reclaiming the parts of yourself they once tried to control or diminish. And the effect is cumulative. The more you allow yourself to experience joy without guilt, the more distant their influence becomes. You start noticing that your life feels lighter, richer, and freer, and that happiness itself is no longer a privilege they can threaten. Even when they attempt manipulation, provocation, or criticism, you feel a quiet detachment, a sense of amusement rather than agitation, because their control no longer reaches you. This is more than personal healing. It is a subtle, undeniable victory. They may still linger in your memories, in social networks, or in conversations, but they no longer dictate the rhythm of your emotions. And so, in the sound of your laughter, unburdened and spontaneous, lies a final truth. You've survived, thrived, and quietly won. Without confrontation, without drama, and without even realizing it, you have defeated them.